Hello, and welcome back, family, to Masquerade Monday. My name is Huddy, and tonight we're talking LA by Night. As always, this video is not scripted and these opinions are all my own, so take what I say with a grain of salt. The night continues from episode 6, and the coterie is still in Gary Golden's domain beneath Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and the famous Celius the Nosferatu, the master mason and builder of the labyrinth himself, pays them a visit. Now, all of the coterie have seen Celius before, but Eve is the only one present who has seen him since his emergence from torpor from a werewolf wound. Celius greets Jasper first, thanking him for protecting him while he was repairing, and tells him that he knows that Jasper is of his line. Of course, they are of the same clan, but he is a great-great-grandsire of Jasper's, claiming that he can just tell, that he sees many things that not all kindred are privy to. He greets the rest of the coterie and then turns to the problem at hand, the Inquisition, and reminds these young kindred, especially young to Celius, that these hunters are still mortal. Beat them enough and they will get discouraged, and that the creation of the Masquerade was done in the hopes that this type of assault would not occur again. But of course we know that to have failed. Victor, ever the pragmatist, asks Celius about the ley lines within the labyrinth, specifically how they could be harnessed against their enemies. Celius says the ley lines are difficult to wield, but what Victor is suggesting, attacking general locations, is possible. That the ley lines themselves are methods of defense and offense, hence why they need to be protected from those with the worst or even the best of intentions. Jasper claims that building the labyrinths is probably a mistake since it draws the attention of so many, and Celius agrees with him, stating that power always attracts those who would misuse it. Celius then notices the blessed mace Jasper had taken from the hunters and says, "Oh, you have faced the church, the Society of Leopold," to which Victor asks, "That's real?" Now, I already discussed the Society of Leopold in a previous recap, but can I just say, I love that Victor seems to be possessed of so much fragmentary knowledge. It seems he knows a little about a lot of things, just enough to make him dangerous. Okay, enough Victor fangirling, moving on. Mitnick arrives with the mobile phone Jasper had taken from the SI the night before and says he was able to get some information off of it, namely some chatter between hunters, informing the coterie that they are both church and government working together, which is not really surprising considering what Greg told Nellie in season 3 about the FBI calling in help from the Vatican. The conversation ebbs and flows between the coterie about what weapons to bring, how best to approach the enemy, where the enemy is at all, and what resources they can rely on. Eventually, Nellie brings up Chelsea, stating how valuable she is as an asset, but of course, Chelsea is now in hospital from a severe gunshot wound, and her prognosis is shaky at best. Nellie leaves to take a minute to herself, but Eva follows her and questions Nellie if she plans to embrace her ghoul. Nellie claims that she doesn't want to lose Lavender, to which Eva responds that mortals who spend time in the company of kindred often end up losing their life because kindred are monsters. She asks Nellie if she really wants to bring Chelsea fully into this world. Nellie says she appreciates Eva's counsel, but she feels she must do what she must do to save her, to which Eva voices her disapproval. Meanwhile, Victor feels a presence, a pressure pushing into his mind, and he hears the voice of Hester of the Weird Sisters coterie. She informs Baron Temple that Kyoko and Delilah have told her that X has been taken by the hunters, somewhere at least 20 miles east of downtown. She only knows the general area because of the bloodstone Delilah placed on one of the hunters. Victor likely doesn't know enough about Thin Bloods to have any inclination from this revelation that Delilah may be more than Duskborn these nights, but when asked about who created the bloodstone, Victor purposefully dodges the question. Like I said, he knows enough to make him dangerous. Speaking of, at one point Victor utters the phrase, "All hail the Dark Father," right? To which Gary greatly disapproves. For those who aren't aware, this is commonly uttered amongst the Sword of Cain, also known as the Sabbat, and Gary is completely right when he utters, "We don't even joke about that." Mitnick decides to put the SIM card back into the cell phone to see if he can figure out exactly where this location might be, and determines that the location is likely an old mission church in the area, perhaps the San Fernando Mission. Gary Golden suggests that they formulate a plan of attack, namely sending Celius and the Weird Sisters to the labyrinth to use the ley lines offensively while the coterie goes to the physical location. Celius agrees to this plan, but does warn the coterie that the ley lines are not precise weapons. Jasper also reminds both Nellie and Victor that their barren BS has to be put aside, with Eve agreeing that factions need to be put aside for survival. Nellie asks Ebe what it was like for her to go from ghoul to kindred. Ebe says that there was no choice for her, that if Nellie is planning to embrace Chelsea, she should ask her first if she can. When they arrive to this clandestine bunkered hospital staffed by mortals, it's implied it's funded by some sort of illegal activity, Nellie becomes aware that Greg is missing from his bed. We as the audience know he was seen speaking to Agent Handler after the initial SI attack, so he's obviously okay enough to walk, right? The scene then moves to Annabelle and X engaged in a ruse in their cell, attempting to get the attention of the guards. Stan, one of the men who brought X to this place, opens the cell door to investigate, along with another guard, and Annabelle revisits the classic line of fastball special asshole from the season 2 finale and throws X at Stan, and then Annabelle uses blink to move behind the guard. X, failing to grapple Stan, decides to use dementation on him, and Stan begins to shake and roll into a fetal position. X takes the opportunity to rip out his throat as Jeanette did to his colleague in episode 5, and X drinks the blood from the removed flesh and cartilage from this Inquisitor, despite Annabelle's protests. Annabelle uses Daunt on the remaining guard and tells him to get into the cell, and although he complies, the guard's helmet clicks and beeps, and he continues to communicate to his comrades, saying, "Red, red, holding cell, send the team." Annabelle rips off his helmet and locks him in the cell as she and X make their egress. As they attempt to find their way through this building, more guards follow them, shouting to get Adrian, someone call Adrian. And eventually they run into Elijah, the other Inquisitor who brought X to this place. Annabelle grabs him by the turtleneck and asks him where the exit is. Elijah is surprised, claiming that Adrian says Annabelle is a miracle, that she won't hurt him, and Annabelle responds by saying Adrian says a lot of things. Elijah, calling on the power of his true faith, tells her to get back, and she feels compelled to back up a few paces. X, who was employing Unseen Passage at the time, comes out of his obfuscate and attacks Elijah, attempting to use dementation on him, but Elijah's will is very strong. Annabelle uses entrancement on him, and this time it works. Elijah says he's saddened to see them go, that he knows he can help them, but if they say they need to go, he will help. He asks the guards to back off and to tell Adrian that he is leaving. He also tells X that he forgives him, to which X responds with a spit. The stinger plays and we rejoin Katya and Aurora still in mid-battle. Aurora asks, "Did you really think you could take me down?" To which Katya replies, "I didn't have to. My child is safe from where I'm sending you." And then we hear multiple voices saying, "Light them up," followed by multiple gunshots, likely sending both Katya and Aurora to their final deaths. If you haven't already, please go follow the World of Darkness Twitch channel, subscribe to them on YouTube, and if you can, sub to their channel on Twitch. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to me as well, and let me know your thoughts on Episode 7, Sharpen Your Knife, in the comments. As always, I'll see you in the next one.